What up, B Squad? It is your boy JB, and I am here today, you guys, with a brand new review for The Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 16, and this is the reunion part one, you guys. Now, before I go ahead and get into it, if you guys are watching this video or any other video on the channel, and you guys aren't subscribed yet, then I need you guys to do me a solid favor and stop taking out on this date and then having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, you guys, and also by turning on your post notifications. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let us go ahead and get into the Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion, shall we? All right, you guys. So before I do get into the reunion, if you guys want to know my 2 cents about the reunion looks, I did a separate video for that about when the reunion looks were revealed. So go check that out. It is on the channel. If I remember it, I will be sure to plug it into the videos once the live is done. But overall, I think everybody looks good, with the exception of Phaedra. And actually, watching the reunion, I still dislike Drew's reunion look. I don't like Drew's makeup the way it looks on camera. I don't like Drew's hair the way it looks on camera. Her dress, that's a different story. I don't really like her dress either, but that's really it. Hate Cynthia's wig. It's something about Cynthia's wig that don't sit right with me, but I can't put my finger on that one either. I don't know if it's the way that the part is, but it's just something about Cynthia's wig that I wasn't feeling. So the reunion starts. We see so they actually filmed this reunion in Atlanta. I think it's been a long time since they actually filmed a reunion in Atlanta. Now the question that I have, I know Andy was pissed. Those women were 2.5 hours late getting on stage. I said, I'd be damned. I know Andy had to be pissed off. 2.5 hours late. So everyone gets on stage. I think Shamia was the first one out. So that whole other side of the couch, they were all out there first, and then Portia came out. When Portia came out, the look on Shamia's face, I was like, "Ooh, Shamia, your face is giving it away." So Andy let the ladies know that Britt Edie decided not to come to the reunion, which we already knew that, and we did see them, backstage talking about Britt. Portia had said that she had talked to Britt the day before, and they were talking about the men coming to the reunion. And Angie said, "Well, did she say that her husband was coming?" She said, "Yes, she did, but she doesn't know what happened, right?" So then, you know, they take a break at one point. Cynthia comes out. We talked about Cynthia's boyfriend, LaPrince, and then we talked about Phaedra's quote unquote boyfriend. I'm using air quotes, by the way. And then, Phaedra's boyfriend is 32. I'm using air quotes about boyfriend. And Cynthia's boyfriend is 39. Then the first few minutes of the reunion was a bunch of fluff because we really didn't talk about much. Now, it was interesting to, because Andy asked Kelly how she felt about Britt not coming, right? And so she was like, I'm paraphrasing, but she was saying in a way that, Britt caused all this, divide, drama, and dissension this season. And then for her not to show up to the reunion. And I was like, and you were right there beside her every step of the way, even with this whole dissension that she caused. So Kelly, like, that's my problem with Kelly. I do like Kelly, but Kelly is just a flip flopper. And I can't rock with that 100% when it comes to Kelly. But that's neither here nor there, right? So, because she says that Britt plays the victim and the villain at the same time. And I was like, well, that part is actually true. But again, you was rocking with her for majority of the season until the latter half of the season. So I want you to shut up, Kelly. So then Drew talked about the fact that, she heard from Britt's attorneys. And so Andy was like, well, what was that about? And Drew says, because Drew said she was hoping that, she would come to the reunion and they can have a conversation with each other. And so she was like, the reason why Britt's attorneys reached out to her attorneys was because I guess some there were some blogs that were talking about the poster boards with Kenya. And so that is why Britt did that. I was like, well, what does it have to do with Drew? But I was like, okay, whatever. Britt's not here. We can move on. We also see that Angela showed up with her fan, and I was here for it. So after we had a lot, like I said, I would say like the first 15 minutes of the reunion was just a bunch of fluff. So after that, we eventually got into what we're going to talk about. So the first thing up was Portia and her divorce, lack of divorce. I don't know what it is with Portia's divorce, because now Simon last week came out and said that he was officially single. I was like, I thought the divorce was finalized a few weeks ago, but whatever. Don't really care. Now we talked about, Andy said it was nice to see Portia filming her home. And so we found out a little bit more about this house, right? So Portia did say that Simon bought the home before they got married, but before they got married, they were doing the prenup, and with the prenup, she says that she was saying she did her due diligence with the prenup, and it took them about 9 months to iron out this prenup. And she says that in the prenup, the house was listed as marital. It was a marital home, right? So that's what she was basically fighting for. I was like, I don't know if that's true, Portia, but I mean, if that's what the story that you want to tell, then you go in and tell it. Because let's just be real, you were fighting to film in that house because you waited. Because I mean, once it was finally clear for you to film in that house, we definitely got you filming in that house. But okay, Portia, it is what it is. So then Andy asked the question of, what was the reason for Portia filing for divorce from Simon? So Portia says that what it was a bunch of untruths, and it was also, danger. She says not necessarily physical danger. I was like, I'm glad you cleared that up, because I'm pretty sure your husband, ex-husband, would have something to say. And I'm sorry, you guys. I hope you guys don't hear the background noise. It's 11, almost 11:30, and it looked like it's about to rain outside, but there are people outside at the pool. But neither here nor there. So a viewer asked the question of why Kelly wanted to know if Portia took that woman's husband. Now, Kelly, you could have come up with a better lie than what you did. So Kelly says that, when she asked Portia if she took that woman's husband, Kelly says it was out of concern. And I said, girl, bye. That was absolutely not out of concern. You were doing that to be messy. You were doing that to ask the burning questions that the people wanted to know. But I think by the time Portia came back to the show, I know for me personally, I was like, I don't even give a damn why she took the woman's husband, because I would have preferred for Portia to come back season 14. Nope. Yeah, season 14 and address the whole Simon of it all. But Portia took the cowardly way out and left the show. So at this point, I don't 100% care why Portia did what she did, right? So then Portia says that, she and Kelly, they had sat down with each other and had a conversation about their divorces, right? And how similar they were. And Kelly was like, girl, that is apples to peaches. Because Portia says that, you and I, when we sat down, we both realized that both of our husbands were putting our divorce information online. And so, once again, she said that's apples to peaches. She said our divorces are not the same, which I mean, I'll agree because, she said I was married for 11 years and you were married for 11 months. Now, Kelly, it took you a minute to get that little read out. I was like, did you rehearse that when Kelly I really feel like Kelly rehearsed that read. That's just my 2 cents. Y'all can tell me if you agree, disagree, or not, right? So then Kelly did confirm that yes, we did have that conversation, but again, our divorces are just not the same. And Portia said that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that our divorces were the same. So then there was another viewer question, and they asked Portia, with how you left the show and the stuff with Simon and Fallon, why would you then say you should fuck Charles? So Portia says that she wants to apologize once again to Angela. And then she says that when it came down to the whole thing, she says Angela was saying that, Portia needed to be held accountable for taking Simon. And I was like, okay. I mean, you should be held accountable, but okay. So Angela said, well, I didn't, I said that after, you said, let me clear it up. Angela said that she said that to Portia after she said, she's heard something about Charles, right? And so then somehow, some way, we got into a whole back and forth where Angela said that Shamia said that she's the one that introduced Portia and Simon to each other, right? And Shamia says that she never said that. And so, because they kept saying, Shamia kept saying she never said that, so they were like, "Let's get a." I think it was Phaedra who said, "Run the tapes back," because they're saying that Shamia said this in Nashville, right? Now they played the clip back of Shamia. What Shamia did say was she was there from the beginning with Simon and with Portia. She and Gerald did double dates with Portia. So Andy took it upon himself to ask Shamia, not Shamia, but Portia. So did Shamia introduce you and Simon to each other, or was it, the DMs, or did you guys come up with this story so that way when you came back, you wouldn't have to take so much of the brunt for how you got with Simon? And Portia hesitated to answer that question, right? But then she eventually said no, and Angela said and kept asking the question, and Shamia said she said no, and Andy said, and she hesitated when she said no too. So he asked Portia again. She said, "No, I didn't. No, she didn't introduce us, and no, this wasn't something that we cooked up." She said, "I was gonna stand in what I did, and it is what it is, right?" Now, I do want y'all to tell me, what do you think and feel? Like, do y'all think that Shamia introduced Portia to Simon? Now, what Shamia says is that, and Portia corroborated this. Shamia said that when it came down to the prenup, that she and Gerald told Portia, there were some things that had been said about him, about Simon being a scammer and all that kind of stuff, and that she should really do her due diligence. And Portia said that that is true, that they did say that, and that she did do her due diligence with her prenup. So again, y'all can tell me what you think, what you feel, and go from there. So I believe that there was another viewer question about Portia's relationship with Coach Dennis, right? And so, because they were talking about Portia and Dennis on the podcast, and if Portia and Dennis would be giving Pilar another sibling, right? And Portia says that this is what it was all about. Me and Dennis being good co-parents with each other, and that's why she was so upset. I was like, okay, Portia, if that's what you want to say, then go ahead and say it, right? And she's like, like me and Dennis, Coach Dennis, we have a good key with each other. And, and I will say I did cackle at Kelly when that heifer said, "Y'all keying in that man's house." And Portia said, "What'd you say? Repeat that." She said, it's my house." Well, it's our house. I was like, ooh, Portia got a little tense with that one. So then we start talking about the whole Drew and Portia of it all, right? So I guess Drew was on a podcast recently, and on the podcast, Drew said that Portia didn't have a storyline. And Andy asked Drew, like, "Do you continue to stand on that?" And she said, "I absolutely do." And she said, Simon says, "What? You had no storyline." Now, whoever gave, if that came off the top of Drew's dome, kudos to you, Drew. Like, I was like, okay, Drew. It was funny to me. I couldn't do shit but laugh because that shit was funny to me. Simon says, "You have no storyline." So then they bring up the text message where it was alleged that Drew was trying to solicit sex for studio time with Dennis. Now let me say this loud and clearly. I never believed that Drew did anything of the sorts with Dennis. I just never bought that storyline. I really, I never bought it because even Drew says that. Well, Ralph says that the text message that you showed him said something different. And Portia was like, "Well, I don't have the text message." And Drew was like, "Convenient." She said, "But Ralph and Dennis, they'll be out here later, so we can talk about it then. Angela was like, girl, we don't need to talk about it at all. Like, I don't want to talk about that shit. Now, Drew, I'm just gonna say this to you. I don't know what's in the text messages, but I wouldn't here's my thing when it comes to business. I wouldn't conduct business via text message. That's just one thing I would not do. Because when it comes to text messages, they can be perceived they can be perceived multiple ways, right? Text messages don't have you can't see how someone's reaction is to something, right? You can't see how someone's voice is inflicted when they text something, right? So things can be misconstrued when it comes to text messages, right? So just going forward, girl, I don't, and again, like I said, I don't think that Drew did anything inappropriate with Dennis. I don't believe that Drew was trying to pay for studio time, which, through sexual means. I don't believe that. That's just what I have to say, right? So then Portia says to Drew that, it wasn't about the storyline. It wasn't about her working with Dennis. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. But Portia, so they're talking about the text message, right? And then Drew said that she called Portia, and Portia said, and I answered. She said, "Girl, you were in Dubai, Africa, everywhere." And Portia said, "And I answered when I was in Dubai." So Portia then says the issue wasn't filming with him. Well, no, the issue was filming with Dennis and not her working with him. And I was like, but they're those two things go in tandem. And so Drew says that, actually before that, Shamia interjected. And so Shamia brought up the whole thing of them saying that Shamia asked Drew, was she fucking Dennis? Which, to Shamia's defense, that's not what she said. She didn't even mention fucking him. So y'all put 20 on 10 with that one, right? So then Angela chimed in. And Angela said, I was kind of confused why you even asked the question in the first place when Portia said leave it alone. And Cynthia said she didn't say leave it alone. She said she can handle it, right? So then Portia says that she when talking about is she fucking him, is she doing this with him, is she doing that with him? Portia said that she told her don't bring anything up, and Shamia said no, you didn't. And I was like, but Shamia, both Angela and Cynthia just corroborated that Portia said either leave it alone or she can handle it. So, Shamia, as much as I do like you, and I really do like Shamia, but this season has shown that Shamia is not the person that she's portrayed herself to be. Shamia, you got a lying problem, my love. You got a big ass lying problem, right? So Shamia said they weren't even filming. And Drew said, yeah, we weren't filming. So Portia got up to hug Drew and she apologized to Drew, right? And so honestly, when it comes to Portia, I don't know if I believe Portia might be sorry because the way she got ate up this past season and she realized I was fucked up for what I did to Drew. I think that's the reason why Portia apologized to Drew, right? Because she apologized for meeting with Ralph and she said, so Andy said, so were you being petty when you did it? She said, absolutely. And I was like, So Shamia, again, Shamia, girl, you just really proven that you're a liar and you're proving what I've been saying when it comes to you. Like, I think the reason why you and Portia have been able to be friends for as long as you guys have been friends is because there's some similarities with you and Portia. But that's all I got to say, right? So after that, we move on. And so not Angela, but Andy asks, what happened with Kelly and Britt's relationship, right? So Kelly goes on this long diatribe about, she always had a videographer, a stylist, hair and makeup before the show. So she didn't get that, when she came on the show. So then she says that she extended it to Britt because when Britt came on the show, Britt didn't have that. And I was like, okay, I can believe that. And we saw it on the show. So Kelly was like, but she didn't mean for Britt to have them for the entire season. And I was like, but you don't have license to these people, so you can't tell these people who they can and cannot work with. And so Andy asked, "Well, did you pay for them?" She says, "I pay for them when I use them, and Britt paid for them when she used them." So I was like, "So what's the problem?" I don't get what the problem is. It would be one thing if I can understand it if, Britt was hiring these people to look exactly like you. If she said, okay, what did you guys put Kelly in today? How was Kelly's hair? What did Kelly's hair look like? What was Kelly's makeup today? Okay, I want the exact same thing. That I would understand. It's like, damn, you're copying me. But for her to just utilize the services of those people, I mean, you let her use them once, right? And she obviously liked the results that she got, so she continued to use them. So Kelly, you made a whole mountain out of a molehill with this one, because this is honestly stupid in my personal opinion. Like, this is really dumb. So Portia said that she talked to Britt, and Britt felt like there was some jealousy there. So Kelly says that Britt has absolutely nothing for her to be jealous of. I would agree with that. I don't think, you know, I never understand people who are jealous of other people, and especially like people who are jealous of their friends, family, significant others. I've never understood that. Like, if you're securing yourself, then you shouldn't be jealous of anybody else, but neither here nor there, right? So Kelly said that actually after that, Portia mentions that Britt told her that the newbies had an alliance with each other, right? So part of the alliance was, so the people that were included in alliance was Shamia, Kelly, and Britt, right? And Portia said that the newbies wanted to take her down once they found out that Phaedra was coming back, right? And so she got all this information from Britt. And then when they got to Grenada and the whole donation thing came up, that's when Britt kind of realized she was on the outside looking in on this alliance with Shamia and Kelly. So from there, that's when Britt decided to spill the tea about, Shamia talking shit about Portia and everything, and that's why everything happened. So Shamia says, okay, yes, there was an alliance, but you're leaving out a person. So Shamia says in the alliance, it was she, Kelly, Britt, and Portia. And Portia like, I ain't know nothing about no damn alliance. And honestly, you guys, I will be honest, I do believe Portia's telling the truth. That she didn't know nothing about an alliance and she wasn't in an alliance. Because here's my thing. What sense would it make for Portia to come back to this show? And so Portia and Kenya were supposed to be the anchors of this show. So what would they need? So what would there need to be an alliance? If there was any alliance, I would think it would have been between Kenya and Portia, and maybe even Cynthia. But the newbies, nah. And notice Kelly ain't over there saying, Kelly ain't confirming that, yeah, Portia, you was in the alliance. Kelly ain't said shit. So I'm like, Shamia, girl, you're looking like a liar. And again, I really like Shamia, but oh, Shamia. Mm-mm-mm. So then we also talked about the whole situation with, Kelly co-signing Britt when she was talking about Angela and Charles, him having an outside baby. And Kelly, here's my thing. I do like Kelly, right? But Kelly is such a flip-flopper. And that's my ultimate problem with Kelly, is that I don't feel like Kelly stands on anything. I feel like Kelly goes literally where the wind blows. Because let's be honest, when the season started, she was Team Britt. But then once the episode started airing, she switched to Team Kenya. And then she was she was Team Britt against Angela. Now she's talking about she's apologized to Angela. And again, like I said, I like Kelly. If Kelly comes back for season 17, I just want Kelly to, be herself, because I don't feel like we know who the real Kelly is. And those are my personal opinions. You guys can tell me what you think and what you feel, right? So then we bring up the whole abortion thing that Britt talked about with Kelly. So Kelly says that, she never had the conversation with Britt. And I don't remember what Kelly said in the episode. So I can't be like, oh, well, you said this in the I don't remember exactly what Kelly said in that episode. But Kelly says that, she had a conversation this is a conversation that she believes the stylist told Britt. And I was like, okay. But like, it's just interesting. But neither here nor there. So then we're talking about Kelly and her security. So Andy asked he asked her how much money did she spend with the divorce. She said 200,000. And so he also asked the ladies, like, do y'all think that Kelly really needed, did y'all think it was too much for Kelly having a bodyguard? And then did they think that Kelly needed a bodyguard? And everybody was like, we understood why she needed a bodyguard, and it's we cool with it, right? But then Portia says that there are two reasons why she needed a bodyguard, and it was like, well, what are the two reasons? So Portia was like, well, we know the one reason is because of the ex husband, and she was like, okay, and what's the second one? And Portia was like, well, I've heard that you didn't really need the bodyguard, that you really only got the bodyguard just for the show. And so she was like, well, who said that? And Portia was like, I can't speak on that. And so Drew was like, well, he did reach out to Ralph. Honestly, like I said before, when it comes to Kelly, here's my thing with Kelly. I think Kelly lives above her means, because I just don't feel like Kelly has it the way that Kelly says. Because remember, we just found out last week or the week before about Kelly's legal issues with the bank that she's been sued by for what, $20,000, 25,000, almost $30,000. Kelly got issues with money. And I don't think they stem from her ex-husband. I think it stems from Kelly. And again, I like Kelly, right? So then, Kelly is talking about how the restraining order works. You can't just get a restraining order just because with no cause, right? And Phaedra said you absolutely can. And so Phaedra explained how the restraining order works, which I kind of knew that's how a restraining order works. You can ask the court for a restraining order, and if the person doesn't come to defend themselves, then you're automatically granted that restraining order. So then they talked about Kelly's legal issues with the rest. At this point, they were just talking about the restaurant. They ain't talking about this the bank. So Andy's asking Kelly, like, when is the restaurant going to be open? She said it should be open this summer. I was like, well, we're already in the summer. We're almost through with the summer because we're in the middle of July. We just got August left. But okay, I mean, if it's going to be open, hopefully it'll be open soon. And Portia said exactly what I had said in my last video about what's her name? Angela, not Angela, Kelly, that is given joggers September, spring, summer. We'll see it when we see it. Neverland. So then Andy asked Shamia if she feels that she stirred the pot when it came to Kelly and Britt. And she says no, that she was trying to mediate. I said, Shamia, a lie, I don't care who tell it, as long as it's told. Because you absolutely stirred the pot with that one. You literally said it to Britt that you think that she's jealous of your friendship with Kelly. Britt, not Britt, but Shamia, go to hell. At this point, Shamia, go straight to hell because you're full of shit, Shamia. You're full of shit. So Andy asked Kelly, does she think that she and Britt can, repair their friendship? And she says no, because Britt wasn't there for her when she needed her the most. And I'm okay with that, right? So then this is the end of part one of the reunion. We get Angela's package, right? And we immediately get into this whole Angela, Marcus, and Phaedra thing of it all. And what I'm gonna say with the whole Angela, Marcus, and Phaedra of it all, I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. I don't believe it. Good morning, Greta. How are you doing? Hope you're having a great, what is it, Monday? Oh, today is the 14th. So y'all, my birthday is in 2 days. 2 days until my birthday. I'm so excited. But that's neither here nor there. So y'all know I don't like defending Phaedra, right? But unfortunately, I have to defend Phaedra. Because when Angela was trying to connect dots to, anybody could connect those dots. So Angela brings out this photo that she has, right? So Angela says that Marcus's aunt is friends with Phaedra's brother on Facebook. Now in their hometown, they only have three middle schools and two high schools. And so that's where she's trying to draw a connection that Marcus's aunt went to school with Phaedra's oldest brother. I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because you guys know I'm from a small town as well. I wish somebody would try to draw a connection and with me like that. Be like, oh, well, your brother went to school with his uncle or vice versa, whatever. Like I'm from a very small, and when it comes to small towns, yes, we may not know each other, but we may know of each other, and that doesn't mean anything. That really doesn't mean anything that Phaedra sent this man. It's just a small coincidence that they're from the same town. I really don't believe that Phaedra did this. So because in my high school, in my hometown, there are two high schools in my hometown, and I think there are five or six middle schools in my hometown. So it's gonna be, you can find anybody that will know somebody in my family because again, small ass town. Everybody pretty much knows each other or knows someone that knows someone that knows someone. So Angela says that Phaedra was trying to secure her spot. And I was like, okay, I can get that. But Angela, you kind of lost me because you said that he was holding out for a long time. He didn't even want to say Phaedra's name. He said Kelly's name at first. I said, Angela, listen to what you just said. If the man said Angela, if the man was gonna say Kelly's name first, and then he gonna switch it and say Phaedra's name, why would you believe that? I wouldn't believe shit that that man says. Good morning, Shadow. Now you says I can see how Phaedra would be set up considering she has lied many times before. But it is a coincidence that they are from the same. It is a coincidence. I'll agree to that. It's absolutely a coincidence that they are from the same town. But I don't believe it. And like I said, the man has continuously lied. Especially Angela just revealed to us that he was trying to say Kelly sent him. He was trying to say Kelly sent him, but then he just miraculously switches it and says, "Oh no, it was Phaedra who sent me." Angela, girl, this ain't it. This really ain't it. This ain't it. Do I believe? I honestly just feel like Phaedra was an easy target because her, as the age old saying goes, your reputation precedes you, and unfortunately, Phaedra's reputation is that of a damn liar. That's why I think she would be a great politician because she's a liar. Because I know she was on the View last week, and they asked her what has she not done that she would like to do, and she said politics. Girl, you would fit in perfectly because you are a liar. But in this instance, I just don't believe that it was Phaedra. I really don't. I really believe that. And here's what I will also say, because I don't want nobody to think that I'm saying I don't believe it was Phaedra, but I believe it was Angela. I don't want nobody to take that as what I'm saying. I'm sticking to what I said last week, not last week, but the week before in the finale. What I think happened is this man saw an opportunity to get on the show through Angela. And he played Angela and he lied to Angela. Do I believe that he gave Angela some stuff that would could lead her to Phaedra? Absolutely. But the whole Facebook of it all doesn't prove anything. I'm sorry, Angela. Just because her brother is friends with his aunt on Facebook, that don't prove anything. Do you know how many people I'm friends with on Facebook that I don't know like that? And we're from the same town? Some of them I've never some of them I probably are some of them I'm older than them and I've never went to school with them, but they added me years later. Like, no, that doesn't prove anything, Angela. And I really like you. I really like you, Angela. But this wasn't it, girlfriend. This was not it. But that was part one of the reunion. Now you guys know I do watch the extended version on Peacock. So I know there were some things that I don't remember what was from the extended version and what was from the original because I watched both of them. I watched it last night and I watched it on Peacock this morning. So I don't know. Shadow Nine says, I think it's a possibility that Phaedra would cook up drama with the ladies just to keep us out of her personal life. When it comes, here's the thing: when it comes to Phaedra, I don't put anything. I honestly don't put anything past the woman because, again, like I said, she's a damn liar. I don't put shit past Phaedra. But this, I just really feel like Marcus played Angela. I really do. But yeah, you guys, that was part one of the reunion. Pretty good part 1, I will say. I was minus the first like 10-15 minutes of it with that fluff. It was okay. But let me know what you guys thought about part 1 of the reunion. I'm gonna hop off of here. So you guys know, again, my birthday is Wednesday. So Real Housewives of Miami, I won't be doing that live. Oh God, I don't know when I'm gonna get you guys Miami, because as of right now, I haven't packed anything. But I'm going to LA. I think tomorrow. I think that's what I'm planning. But yeah, I'm going out of town for just a few days, and Miami might be up. Here's the thing with Miami: it may be a pre-recorded video, and it may be a live, it may be a pre-recorded. I don't know 100% what Miami's going to be right now, and I still got to get caught up on Ironheart on my other channel. That'll Ironheart should be up and completed by tomorrow, and that's all I got, you guys. But as always, you guys, thank you for joining me in the live. Be sure to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and I will catch you guys after my birthday. Yeah, that's when I'm gonna catch you guys. I'm gonna catch you guys after my birthday. Thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate it. But yeah, you guys, that's it. Like I said, I'm gonna hop off of here and get started with the rest of my day. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye guys.